I remember one time working with a stakeholder. uh, this was my mentor for that matter, and she gave me an assignment for us to come up with a budget analysis, and we came out with an estimate. And she asked us, how did you people come up with this estimate? Because she has been in the field and she understands what works best. So we said we just made a guess, and she said no, this budget can't even work, it's too much. And we were so confused at that moment, but she had done her research and she had an estimate, an approximate that is closer to what can overcome the project. And in that moment, I learned something very powerful, that you need to be very structural in the way you come up with your budget. And in that moment, I also learned that she was very detailed and oriented towards doing her research. And I've come to work with brilliant women who do that same thing. Shout out to women when it comes to project management. I think the best leaders and project managers that I've worked with are mostly women. I don't know why it is like that. I can't really give a real explanation of it, but they are good at doing their research and making sure that the structure is there. And in that moment, I also realized something which is very, very important for you to understand, that your budget is not only about you. It is not just about the project that you're working with, but it is also about your mindset. It starts with you and the team members. It is not just about the financial cash, but it is also about your mindset. And that is what we want to tackle in today's episode. I want to show you a blueprint, like a step by step that you can follow to come out with accurate budgeting. Let's get into this episode. So the first thing that I need you to understand is clarity. You need to understand the scope of your business, the scope of your project, the scope of what you are trying to achieve, because you cannot price something that you don't understand. And that is the biggest mistake that so many people do. Someone comes to you and say, I need a website. That is a good example. And that sounds very cheap, right? I need a simple website for that matter. And you feel like, okay. And what does simply means for you? Does it mean 5 pages, 20 pages? Are there animations? Are we talking about search engine optimization? You need to understand what simply means to you, because it is the same like giving an estimate for a project or building without knowing the exact building that you are going to build. Is it a story building? Is it a wood house? Is it just a normal building, a single room, or what? You need to understand that, and what are the features, the designs that you will need in the house. That is where the difference comes in. And if you don't understand this, it will be very difficult for you to break down your project. So what do you do at that moment? You need to first of all identify the deliverables. What is this person expecting of me? What does this person want? The next thing is you break it down to smaller taxes, and you will realize that there are certain areas where you make assumptions. It is very important, because you are going to assume that, oh, maybe this is going to take 10, this is going to take 5, this is going to take 6, or the landing page right up to the page itself is it going to be 5 pages or 6 pages? They are going to make assumptions and all those things. When you are doing your project estimate for the budget, you need to put into consideration how long and what are the assumptions that we are taking. These assumptions might delay our project. We assume that this happened, so you have to put that in mind. That is the first step, clarity. Second thing that you need to do is break your work into work packages. That is what separates professionals from amateurs. Once you are into the professional field, or what you want to achieve, you understand that you want to start a business, you want to start a project, you need to understand that you have to break your work into work packages, because that is going to enable you to see the reality of each task that you want to accomplish. So instead of budgeting the whole project itself, you have to break it down and budget each task. Understand the cost price of each task, then you combine them. I'll give you a relatable example. Imagine you're working on a marketing campaign, right? Instead of saying this is going to cost us 10,000 US dollars, you can say that we are going to break the tax, right? We have the designers, we have the software that we're going to use, the ads, we have the people who are in charge of the social media handling and to make sure that they respond to client. Once you have broken these tasks, you can then allocate each amount that is needed to complete that task. When you have the combination of all of these, then you can come up with a total. You will see that it is much easier and the outcome of your project will be closer to the approximate amount that you need to achieve that project, rather than just budgeting the whole project. Break them down and allocate each amount for each task. That is the simplest second way for you to break your projects and make sure that you realize a better outcome. As we move on, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button if what we're sharing here makes a difference, and click the like button so that we can reach out to more people. And this is the way you can help us in so many ways. So our next point is identifying your cost categories. You will realize that there are moments where you're working in a project and there are different categories of expenditures that you're going to experience. There is indirect cost, there is direct cost, there is a variable cost, and there is a fixed cost. So you need to identify each of these costs. If you don't identify them, it will be very difficult for you to know which one to prioritize or which one not to prioritize. A good example is this: if you are planning for an event, right, the hall itself that you have to pay for is a fixed cost. So that is a fixed cost. Now the variable cost is this: the guests that are going to come for that event, there are some guests that you would like to treat them special, put them on the high table while others are on the other side. That is a variable cost. You are treating them differently, and the cost is going to increase or decrease depending on the person that you are handling at that time. Then we also have direct cost, right? The manager which is in charge of that event is someone that you have to pay that person directly, so that is a direct cost. And then we have also an indirect cost. You will think of the electricity, the water bill that you have to pay them. That is an indirect cost. Understanding this makes you stand in a better position from someone who just walks in and say, oh, I have the money, I just need to pay this and pay this. There are some certain payment that you have to make first. You have to pay for the event, the hall that you're using. You have to prioritize the manager who is in charge of that. You have to do the budget analysis. How do I want to treat these people? Do I want to treat them specially, or I want to treat everyone equally? So you need to identify these cost categories, because it goes a long way and it makes a difference depending on the project that you're working on. You realize that the similarities and the differences on this course are very minimal. Right off from the beginning of this episode, I've given you different examples, software related examples, building examples, and event managing. That is how project managers operate. You are a problem solver, and wherever a problem arises, that is your duty to make sure that you solve that problem. The last point is something that so many people don't put into consideration because it requires a lot of effort, and people avoid that. You have to make this decision after you have gone through risk analysis, analyze the risks before you do this, and that is contingency reserve. Right, unexpected risks are going to pop up and you have to be prepared for it. I always advise people to put themselves in this scenario. Will you rather prefer to explain why you added this contingency reserve, or you explain why you got short of budget? Of course, the safer side is to explain why you added the contingency reserve, because when your project fails at that moment, there is no time for you to explain again. You have to be very considerate about doing your risk analysis for your budget. What if this goes wrong? And it's important that you add from 5 to 15% depending on the risk level of your project. So if you want to add a contingency for your budget, you need to go through the risk analysis. You need to analyze after you've done your research. If you're watching up to this moment, thank you for being part of the family. I need you to do me one of the favors that I asked you alongside this video, and that is hitting that subscribe button. If anything I've shared with you today resonated, spark a thought, or even just a feeling, then thank you for liking this video, and see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe.